Welcome to our very first podcast episode. I am Winston Hall. This is Jonathan Schaub. We hope this will soon be the world's #1 Seinfeld fan podcast. So let's dig into it right away. Jonathan, what do you have for us?
His whole life is a fantasy camp. People should plunk down $2,000 to live like him for a week. Do nothing, fall ass backwards into money, mooch food off your neighbors, and have sex without dating. That's a fantasy. Talking, of course, about Cosmo Kramer and
Cosmo.
Oh, that Cosmo. His finances, his income, and how he gets by in pricey Manhattan in the 1990s. One year in the 80s. Yeah.
One right off the bat about that quote is that his friends recognize that Kramer gets money. He obtains it. And it's seemingly
They
without even
mentioned,
trying.
I think it's, I forget what episode, but someone asks, what do you do for a living? And he goes, oh, I get by. That's it.
Which sounds,
That's all you know.
It sounds like a code word for somebody who's doesn't worry about money, but
I can't really tell you.
Yeah, it contradicts a lot of things later, like with his gambling, but we'll get into that. So, obviously, Today's episode, we're talking about Kramer and how the heck does he make money? It's a very fascinating topic. And it's something I don't know that the writers explicitly addressed was like any intentionality, or if it was just, oh, today he did this, today he did that. But it's a really fun topic. So and I've been told, Jonathan, you told me, you're just going to kind of surprise me with this list of things.
Oh, it's going to be a big surprise. It's not that. I just
so
haven't. I broke it down. Yeah. I broke it down into kind of different categories. Let's start off with just his gigs, his day jobs.
Okay.
So, what I have is, I should have put these in chronological order, but he was a Calvin Klein model, briefly.
Yes.
His buttocks are sublime. He was a stand-in for a TV show with Mickey. Yes. Also the sort of thing you'd probably just get, some sort of day rate for. He was a ball man at the U.S. Open, which probably lasted for 2 weeks. If he was in a match with, I think it was Monica Seles, who gets injured in that one, it means he probably was a ball man for a lot of the 2 weeks, but again, probably just getting an hourly wage. These are all things that have an ending. He had a job
and it's spent, it's gone, but still money.
Exactly. Still money.
Okay.
He, of course, acted out the illnesses for med students.
Jaundice. Was he the one with jaundice?
Gonorrhea.
Yes. Mickey.
Well,
Mickey had.
I got gonorrhea. That sounds about right. He sells vintage clothes with Jerry's dad, if you remember the raincoats.
Yes.
Of course, he used to work at H&H Bagel, then went on strike.
Yeah.
Came back to H&H during the Festivus era, and then went immediately back on strike to protest his inability to take the day off for Festivus.
How much would a bagel job pay anyway? And by the way, the strike, how long were they on strike? For like years?
Yeah, years. A very long time.
So his pay rate would have been based in like the mid to early 80s.
Well, they say, what were your demands? And I think it was something like, I want $5.35 an hour. Yeah. And they said, I think that's the new minimum wage. You know who to thank for that.
So he wasn't getting rich from that. But interestingly, this is a good point, though. He felt compelled to go to work, right? Like he had to go get a job for $5
right. He had a sense of duty.
Right. Okay. It's endless contradictions, but keep going. I'm listening.
The strike's over. I got to go back to work. I'm not gonna be a jerk who just doesn't work. And he was a department store Santa for a while.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Also with Mickey. Again, just gigs.
Yeah.
So that's kind of one category. So as I'm looking at all these, it's like none of these are really going to have... These are things that'll get him through the month, but doesn't explain the mystery.
So Kramer was into a gig economy maybe before that was really a term. All these people delivering for Amazon and Uber Eats and all this stuff. Like Kramer was leading the way.
So what would he be doing today? Well, you just said
Oh,
delivering.
yeah, DoorDash. Can you imagine?
Maybe he'd be a musician.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, truly.
I could see him doing a lot of He's not someone who's gonna learn how to code something and get some sort of network job.
Yeah, well, what's funny and I had a list too of these jobs. As you're listing them, it feels like Kramer exists outside the realm of time. You
Yeah.
know, like none of these things, like oh, I have a mortgage due, or got to go to the dentist or something. He doesn't need the money. It's just kind of like these things are out there floating around. He
Yeah.
was on strike for 10 years or whatever it was. Like time is not. It's relative to
You
him.
worked?
Yeah. Or how about, we'll probably get to this later, but I'm retiring. I'm retiring. And Jerry says,
Guys,
from what?
I'm retiring. From the grind.
From what? Ugh.
From the
Okay,
grind.
so he's,
All right, so
he's-
that's kind of what I have. I'm sure there are some I missed right there, but that's
Okay,
kind of one category. Yeah.
but we need to point out here that we looked this up, but I'm trying to remember the exact number, but an average, like a one bedroom apartment rental in New York City, 1989, was like $600 or $700 on average.
So, yeah, it could be anywhere. This is the Upper West Side.
Yes.
At the time, would have been very pricey. I saw anywhere between like 500 and 1,500. Now,
Yes.
there's a little bit more on this though in the episode where Miss Hudwalker dies in the apartment above Jerry,
Yes.
and he's talking to the two landlords, and they offer the apartment. Do you know anyone who wants the apartment? He says Elaine would take it in a second, and they say the rent. It was a rent-controlled apartment. So this is important to remember because it's same building. Kramer's just down one floor. That apartment was $400 a month. It was a big part of that plot.
Ah. So,
And
okay.
$400 a month. So if he is in some sort of rent-controlled situation, which there's no mention of when he started living there, so
Right.
he could
Right.
be in a totally rent-controlled, very cheap for the time and the place he's in.
Yes. So then your gigs could conceivably float you along. But again,
Could
it's
get
New
you
York
from
City.
month to month, but that's one thing.
And Kramer owns a car. And where
He does
the
have a
now?
car.
He has a car. Now, obviously, it's an old car, probably paid for. But where you got this New York City, man, you got to park it somewhere. You always
It's
have
true.
to park it. So if it's not in a garage, then out of sight, Kramer's moving the car. They have you got to move your car in New York City like every 3 days. You know this?
That's right.
Yeah, and so he's either moving the car constantly or he's paying have it in a garage. So
Or
anyway,
he, or he goes to Jiffy Park, if you remember.
Jiffy Park, which was like a subway ride.
Can I just get my car? It's
Yeah.
going to be a problem.
Right.
It's all the way in the
Was
back.
it-
Can't get it out
was
for a
it
couple
always-
days.
Was it always in Jiffy Park? I don't know where it was.
Oh,
By the
no,
way,
that's just very briefly.
we should point out anybody that either one of our listeners can chime in if we're gonna get stuff wrong. Like this is like we love Seinfeld, but I don't have an
I
encyclopedic
disagree.
knowledge of.
I'm not going to get it. You might get something wrong.
You know what? You remember that time that we thought you made a mistake, but it turns out you didn't.
No, that's not
remember that.
true.
Yeah.
I will I spend an embarrassing amount of time researching this, but that doesn't mean I'm correct at all about any of this.
So like I said, either one of our listeners can chime in if we make a mistake.
Please.
But we call that dialogue.
We
So
want
feel
it.
free to add to the dialogue.
Please
Of
add
this.
to the dialogue, yes.
Okay.
We are
so covered-
by no means an authority.
No. I don't know
Okay.
nothing about nothing. Okay, so we did the gig jobs that we know of. There are probably others. So what are we moving
Yes.
into next? What's the next section?
The next one are his I wanted to go to this is pretty quick because I don't think he makes money off of any of these. But the lawsuits. Usually
Yes.
with the lawyer Jackie Childs.
Yeah. Well,
He sues Big
Yeah.
Tobacco for turning his face into a catcher's mitt.
and he gets a billboard.
He loses his twinkle. But they just schmooze him into doing a billboard campaign. But I don't
Right.
think he gets any money from that, which makes Jackie Childs very upset. It's the most public yet of my many humiliations. That sort of thing.
By the way, one of my favorite Seinfeld factoids, if you watch the scene where Kramer is modeling in the office, he falls
the
against
Calvin
the
Klein
wall.
modeling?
Yeah, he slides down the wall, but he was covered in so much makeup that some of it came off on the wall.
It smudges on the wall.
Go back and
I
watch
didn't know
it.
that.
He slides down the wall. There's a giant smudge on the wall where he slid down the wall. Anyway.
Wow. Very
Yeah.
good. I had no idea.
Yeah. So he didn't get money for that. He got a billboard.
I don't think he got money because Jackie Charles is very upset, and he's on the billboard with smoke coming out of his
Yes.
like a big.
Yes.
He gets burned by the coffee, and
Yes.
sues
'Cause he
the
put
Java place. I don't remember the name of it. Coffee's
He put
supposed
it
to
in
be
his-
hot,
Not
not
that
that hot.
He put it in his pants. Like he put it in
And-
his waistband. I just saw that.
In that one, they finally get to. They're in the room. They're with the lawyers. We want to offer you a lifetime supply of free coffee plus, and he goes, "I'll take it." And so before they can finish the offer, which was going to be like 50,000 or something, he agrees to just having free coffee. So once again, makes no money off of that. Then there's the. I don't know if it's a lawsuit, but there's a court case with Sue Ellen Mishke, the braless O. Henry candy bar heiress, because he wrecks his car when she's out wearing a bra as a top, and that ends with them having her try on the bra in the courtroom because his caddy tells him to stand the caddy. It's like, go for the green. He's like, Jackie, have him try on the bra. It's like, you're taking advice from a caddy. So he does it. It doesn't fit the case, and you can only assume that the case then goes kaput, and he doesn't, succeed there either. So that's one other category is his litigation. He's very litigious.
See, this goes back to my. Okay, there's two contradicting theories. One is that he's always had some kind of money because he acts like money doesn't matter, right? Like you're suing Big Tobacco, and all you want's a billboard. You're suing the chocolate company, you don't really get anything. It's contradicting the fact that like he worked at the bagel place for $5 an hour. So again, still working on these theories, trying to figure out where he's at.
There's got to be something. We're not getting the full picture.
Okay.
Got to be
Let's keep
something.
digging.
So he has gigs, he has he has lawsuits that don't really make money, and then he has these ventures. It's the next category.
Oh, I love it. Okay.
You want to guess?
Well, Kramerica Industries.
Kramerica Industries. As far as I can tell, your entire industry is nothing more than a solitary man with a messy apartment which may or may not contain a chicken. And with Darren say, whoa, get that chicken.
Let me just tell you something. Let me tell you something about chickens. This is a little off subject, but it's funny.
Mending chicken wire. A high tea with a Mr. Newman.
If you want to make anything funny, put a chicken in it out of
Just
context.
throw a chicken in.
I'm telling you, this is like, I was never a comedy writer for SNL, but you go back and every time you've seen a chicken appear in anything out of context, it's always funny.
When has it
always
not
funny.
been funny?
Yeah, that's like comedy gold. You take any concept that's usually chickenless, put a chicken in it. It's funny.
Yeah.
That's funny. Apartment in New York City that may or may not contain a chicken.
Contain a chicken.
I
There's
love
too
it.
many
Okay.
chickenless scenes, really.
I know.
Anyway,
You'll think about that later today. You'll be like walking around thinking, this would be
this
funny
would
if
be
there was
funnier if there was a chicken.
if there was a chicken in it. It would be funnier. I mean,
Yeah.
think symphony performance, right? Like some symphony, and then a chicken just walks across the stage, or whatever. Just take a chicken. I'm
Just
telling you.
grocery store. Think
Think
of how funny that would be.
Like chicken in the chicken section, like actual ready to eat chicken.
I don't know about that. That's a
not
little.
funny.
Ooh, it's a little dark.
But an actual chicken walking around the grocery store.
Yeah, you're right. That is funny.
Yeah.
That is funny.
So
All right.
yeah,
Ventures.
He had a,
Kramerica Industries. He is an intern
Yeah.
for a while. Again, I don't.
Well,
He
and
gets
by the way,
free
the
labor
bladder-
from that. I don't know if he gets any money from it.
it's a write-off. No, the bladder idea is not the worst idea. Like having a bladder inside a boat.
Inside of an oil tanker.
Yeah. So he
Yeah.
could have patented if he knew. But again, I can't picture Kramer doing any
But they
actual
test it
work.
out by jumping the giant ball of oil, and
Right.
it breaks, and so I think again they abandon.
The end
A
of
lot of
Kramer
these things just go
industry.
nowhere. Another one, the next one I was going to bring up, was the pizza restaurant where you make your own pie.
Make your own pizza. But by the way, can we just say how far ahead of their time a lot of these ideas were?
Yeah.
Like, of course,
Yeah.
somewhere in America right now is some hippy dippy place where you make your own pizza. I guarantee it.
Yeah. You should look. Can you look that up? Hold on one second. Darren? I'll have Darren look it up for us. There's a pizza, but that ends with him and Poppy arguing about what toppings can go on a pizza. When is a pizza a pizza? What is appropriate to allow people to put on their pizza? So that, again, ends in a big argument that never comes to fruition, never becomes an actual restaurant. Got anything?
Okay. Very first website. I have no idea where this is. It's called Pieology Pizzeria. And at the very top in big letters it says craft your own pizza.
There you go.
Craft your own pizza.
I mean, this is different. You
Yeah.
know, you can go on Papa John's or Pizza Hut or Domino's, whatever, and customize your pizza. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about going in and making your own pizza like Kramer does.
Well, this says, I don't know where this is. Pieology Pizzeria. Craft your own. Anyway, Kramer was ahead. But again, his idea.
I'm sure it exists.
They're torpedoing. He torpedoes his own ideas a lot of times.
Yeah.
Like when he got in a fight over the Manzier, right?
Bro.
Right. The argument torpedoed that. So
Yeah, we're seeing a theme here with a lot of these.
yeah. Okay. Okay. Here's the locations for Pieology. They're in. Looks like they're in Los Angeles, among other places. Anyway,
Where Kramer has spent some time.
He did spend some time.
All right, on to
city
the next one?
Yes, on to the next. Bored of that. Moving on.
All right. There's, of course, the bottle deposit. 10 cents in Michigan.
My favorite
Gets
part.
the free truck, goes there, encounters Jerry's stolen car with the golf clubs, JFK's
Yes.
golf clubs that they throw at him. He abandons it, throws Newman out of the truck, throws all the
Yes.
cans out of the truck to make it lighter, and then chases the car. Again, amounts to nothing.
My favorite part of that is the allusion to the fact that they had already tried it. Do you remember this conversation? Like they were talking about profit margins and it'll
Yeah.
never work. I forgot. who
Jerry
it was,
comes
but-
in, he's like, "You're not trying that Michigan bottle deposit thing." Or he's like, "No, I'm off that. I'm off that." So yeah, there's a history there that we don't know about.
Right. That's my favorite part is that it's like you had to, clearly there's been this whole kerfuffle before about the bottle deposits and they're revisiting it. And when they got
You
the
blow
free
all your
truck-
margins on gasoline, it doesn't work. But
Which-
then the free truck makes it feasible because of Mother's
Yeah.
Day. Yeah.
So that kind of alludes to some business experience, some minor business experience.
He's
Right,
always
like-
trying things.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Schemes.
could he be?
He's a schemer.
He's a schemer. Could he be one of these like real enigmatic entrepreneurs that at one point in the past something did work for him?
Yeah.
And that's anyway.
Amidst many failures.
Right. Right. He obviously has
okay.
that spirit. Yeah.
Another failure. The importing cigars, he brings in
The Cubans.
Cubans to his Jerry's parents' place. They're real people from Cuba. I said Cubans.
Yeah.
They turn out to be Dominicans. Earl Heffler, or whatever his name is, with the cowboy hat. You wouldn't be trying to sell me Dominicans in a Cuban outfit or whatever he says. Anyway, that falls apart as well because he says these guys rolled for Castro's brother Dwayne, and he doesn't buy it, and again goes kaput. Now, there's one more. What's that?
Well, I was just thinking about there is a little financial output. Like he had to pay for the plane tickets, didn't he, to get the Cubans to New York City? Did he pay for the plane tickets?
He gets them to Florida first. I don't remember
and
how
Jerry,
they. I
I
mean,
think
one would
Jerry,
assume he's paying something for their transport.
right,
He
right,
said
right,
he's
right,
got
right.
investors lined up. That's the line
Right.
he says. I got all these big investors lined up.
Okay,
They're going to
okay.
come in and roll their own cigars. And then they end up rolling crepes at the crepe restaurant when they don't have anything
Yes,
to do with them. But they're
yes, and the crepes
Dominicans,
exploded.
so
Yeah,
they
yeah.
all, yeah, right. That's why you got to get real Cubans. The
So
intoxicating
Kramer,
aroma.
so he has this long history of entrepreneurship. With it seems like a little bit of financial investment in these. Like how did he pay for the bladder? Right, the Kramerica bladder. Like he obviously had to buy that. Anyway,
Yeah.
but he
There's,
fails and fails and
within
fails.
all of this, yeah, kind of, I don't even know how to describe. Within all this failure and kind of bad planning, there are these nuggets that are like, there might be something there. There's something
Yeah.
that could be cultivated.
Well, I wonder if it seems like there could be some sort of business motivational series about Kramer and not giving up. Because as you tell these ideas, I'm like, man, he really did have a lot of ideas, and he pursued them to the point where he was bringing humans in from other countries. Like that's hilarious.
Human beings in from other countries.
Yeah.
There's
Anyway.
persistence. And, well, I'll get to this point a little bit later. Let me move on to, I think, the last venture that I had down. This one actually probably, well, could have made a little bit of money, which was the Peterman Reality Bus Tour.
Yeah.
$37.50 for a pizza bagel and dessert. You remember what dessert is?
Uh, muffin tops.
No,
muffin
no,
bottoms.
they
Muffin
used the
bottoms.
bus. No, they used the bus for the stumps later in the episode.
Oh, okay. No, I don't
No,
remember.
the dessert is a bite-sized Three Musketeers, just like the real Peterman eats. Really, he eats those? No, I eat those. I'm the real
Yeah.
Peterman. So $37.50 per person, and
How
he's
many
got
people were
a
on the
small
bus?
bus that is fairly full. Each time we see it.
Yeah. So like wait, 10 people maybe? 10, 12,
Yeah,
8 or 10 people?
but again,
Yeah.
not much, not a sustainable thing. We still haven't gotten that part.
Yeah. And then who bought the bus?
Where did the bus come from? Is he renting the bus? Exactly. He just shows up one day and smacks the side of it with the sign that says Peterman Reality Bus Store. Check it out.
Okay, 37.50 times. Let's say I would have to watch the episode to see exactly how many people. But that's
Let's be
37
generous. Let's say he got 100 people to go on it.
that's $3,700.
Exactly.
Do that math. Yeah. So
But minus his gas costs, minus the bus, he's paying
bus,
something
yeah.
for those things.
yeah. So again, themes of entrepreneurship. He had an idea and he was like, "Oh, we could do
There
this."
is something to be learned about persistence.
My favorite part of that, by the way, is how the tour drags on and on. And then like you've been on. I was on. This is a true story.
Lomez's House of Worship is just around the corner here.
I was on with Donna, my wife. We were on a bus tour in Amsterdam one time, and there was a major traffic jam. We were seeing a big tulip field, in near Amsterdam, and there was a traffic jam, and we got like 4 hours behind because of all this crazy traffic, and the tour guide felt compelled to keep being a tour guide the whole time.
Right.
And like, oh well, there's a tree, and that's a common tree, and there's another one of those. Anyway, it was like after a while, like take the microphone away, and I laughed. That episode in particular, I thought of that. It gets dark on them at the end, like it just keeps going and going and going.
Oh, our tour is going to be extended at an extra stop at no cost. Yeah. Yeah, just filling space, the beads of sweat.
Yeah. Somebody had experienced that before because that was hilarious. So, but again, we never see it again, right? It crashes and burns.
That's
Peterman
right.
Reality
That's
tour.
right. It's temporary. Okay.
And the bus went where? Okay.
Now we're getting to what I think are the more interesting things. Let's go to his acting. We are not including acting for the med students or the stand-in job he had. I want to start with the Woody Allen movie. He gets cast in a Woody Allen movie as a line.
Making me thirsty.
These pretzels are making me thirsty.
So
These pretzels are making me thirsty.
So isn't it if I'm recalling correctly, he doesn't get to say the line because
he gets fired.
Up, right? Yeah. So
George screws up the parking situation. This is when he's parking cars and everything goes.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
So
it disrupts, but this is separate from that. I think Kramer slams a glass down and it breaks, and a part of it hits Woody Allen, and so he gets fired. And so once again, does not come to fruition.
Does not come to fruition. Now he would have gotten paid possibly for his time on set. Like you would.
He could have got a day rate.
A day rate for being there.
Right.
But
probably he was there a couple days because he got a line in the movie. Oh, I forget how he got it in the first place, but he was already there as an extra, I think.
Yes. So interestingly, I have just a little bit of experience with this. In the film industry, to get a line in a movie, if it's a union movie, which in New York City it is, you have to join SAG, or they have a thing called Taft-Hartley where they kind of saying a line gets you into the union. But it's a big deal to have a line in a movie. It's very, very different scale-wise from just being in the background.
Right,
so,
sure.
So I don't remember the time frame, if that was before he went to L.A. or not, but had he said a line in a movie, that might have gotten him into the union, the SAG-AFTRA union.
Would have had to by default, right?
Right. So, and I don't know the technicalities of that. One of our two listeners can chime in. But that's something that then gets you like medical insurance if you want it, or residuals if they use the line.
Right.
But he got fired, but we don't know if he used the line. We just know he got kicked off the set.
Well, you mentioned residuals.
Residuals, conceivably, yeah.
Which brings us to the thing that he might be getting residuals for, which is what?
Murphy Brown.
Which is his appearance on Murphy Brown as Stephen Snell.
Speaking lines.
He has lines. She comes up and he's typing on the computer like this. Like, this is how you type. You just type like this. Look at how busy I am. And
that's movie typing.
She says, "Oh, you're the new."
That's also how you hack. That's how you hack into computers. Just type fast.
This is how I type.
Yeah.
She asks his name. I'm Steven. She says something like, "Okay, Mr." He's like, "No, Steven."
Yeah.
And
I think we're gonna like you, or something like that.
I've got a good feeling about. I know people, and
yeah.
I've got a good feeling about you.
Yeah.
And then he stuffs a cracker into his mouth and keeps. Anyway, but he has a line on Murphy Brown in the '90s. Very popular show, ran for a long time. So now we're talking. He could conceivably be getting residuals from that, and then the syndication, and then possibly streaming even. So I guess we're just talking about the '90s, so no streaming yet.
So we know Kramer had a line that went to air because they were watching TV in New York City when there's Kramer on Murphy Brown. That alone might pay his rent every month.
Right.
And
now it's residual, which means you get this much from the first airing, and then this much from the second, and then it kind of dwindles over time, but it's still something coming in.
and then I don't know if Murphy Brown ever went into true like syndication. Like Seinfeld is on 8 times a day, every day.
That's right.
So they ain't hurting for money. I don't know if Murphy Brown had that kind of long lasting.
Well,
but it could be
what
on...
TV show had more syndication than Seinfeld? I mean, that may be the number one. I don't know, but
I would say probably Law and Order is right there, maybe.
That's true. They're also just a machine of so many episodes too.
But now with the advent of streaming and Roku and smart TVs, you could probably go on a TV right now and find Murphy Brown.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
And
it's
so
somewhere.
in the fictional world, I imagine Cosmo Kramer would have been getting. And by the way, these checks vary too, right? Like it's not the same amount every time.
Yeah.
So that would have definitely taken some of his financial burden off. For sure.
Okay.
Kramer just fell off the wall. Right when I said that, he fell off the wall. Whoa. That's creepy.
Speaks to the production value of our podcast here.
I need a bigger piece of
all
tape.
right. I think I just have
along.
3 things left, and
okay, let's hear it.
These are the bigger ones. So first, we'll talk about his military service.
I can't wait to hear this one because I full disclosure, I got some of these ahead of time. I literally didn't know what you were talking about. I have no idea. And I watch a lot of Seinfeld.
It's the Strongbox episode where
Okay.
Jerry puts his cufflinks in there. Kramer's trying to hide the key all over the apartment, and Jerry keeps finding it. He brings it out. He brings it out the first time to show. And he's like, "Oh, so you bought a cooler?" He's like, "It's a strong box for my important items." They're like what? He's like, "My Tony." He did get a Tony.
Right.
Something else, and then he says, "My military discharge." And I think Elaine says, "You're in the Army," and he goes, "Briefly." That's it. And then a little bit later they say, "So what'd you do in the Army?" And he says, "That's classified." And that's it.
This is what, in my mind, probably happened. He went to boot camp when he was like 18 and probably barely got through boot camp, and then did something to get immediately, discharged. Dishonorable.
I think that's probably likely. I saw to give credit, I think, what's his name? I just read this article. Someone had a theory. Brandon something on Medium.com. I think it's Brandon Scott. Just give Brandon credit. He thinks,
shout out Brandon.
He could have been, the timeline fits that he could have been a Vietnam vet who served in some sort of special forces or intelligence, which would explain why he doesn't want to talk about it, which is why he's jumpy all the time. He has PTSD. It's an interesting theory. But we don't really know. So it's conceived. I think it's, yeah.
A spy in plain sight.
But
okay.
Does he really, does he say spy when you meet Kramer?
No, but let me tell you real quickly a 60-second story. My favorite spy story of all time. There was a CIA operative. This is true. You can Google it. Go look it up. There was a CIA operative, and I want to say it was North Africa. Maybe North Africa. The guy, his front was that he was in a cover band, a singer in a cover band. And he was so good that his cover band became regionally famous.
Oh.
And I'm like, this is a movie waiting to be made. I don't know if somebody hasn't made it. But his handlers were like, "Yo, you're getting too famous. You need to lay off the band gig." But he became a successful, regionally famous singer wherever he was stationed.
And that he doesn't want to be famous if he's...
No, that was his cover. He was actually a CIA operative trying to get intelligence on the ground. And eventually I think he got pulled or whatever. But look it up. It's a really cool story. So that being said, Kramer's, hiding in plain sight. He could have been a spy, but he seems way too talkative to be a spy. I don't know. Anyway.
It's an interesting theory. I don't know if I buy that. The washout, him being briefly, means he probably washed out, and he doesn't want to say that. So if anyone asks, he just is like, "That's classified." That's classified. What I think. Anyway,
that's more Kramer-esque to me. Okay, yeah. Continuing on.
Now we're to his two that I think are, well, one, we definitely know he made money.
Okay.
So on the subway episode, they're all on the subway. Jerry's going out to Coney Island. The whole episode's on the subway. He meets the naked guy. Yes. I forget all the plot line. George.
But they're all going in different directions, right? When they get off the subway, yeah.
Kramer hears a betting tip about a horse on the subway. There's two guys talking about.
He's a mutter. His mother was a mutter. His father was a mutter.
They're gonna break his name. His father was a mutter. His father was a mutter. His mother was a mutter. His mother was. And then Kramer later takes this tip and then goes to bet, and in line repeats the exact same thing to the guy behind him.
Yes. Do you remember the horse's name?
Papanik.
I looked at Papanik.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Good man. That's a Seinfeld trivia.
Yeah. So he goes and bets $600 at 30-1 odds. So here we actually know, and wins.
How much?
So we actually know
say?
$18,000 is how much he would have won on that one bet. Okay. $600 at 30-1 odds.
$18,000.
$18,000. And he has big wads of cash at the end of it.
Right.
He goes to the subway. The guy follows him, tries to mug him, but then a police officer who's masquerading as just a guy playing a violin on the subway comes out and puts the guy. He's like, "Freeze, police." So Kramer keeps that money as far as we can tell.
Okay, here's a fun sidebar. With a 2.62% inflation rate on American currency, today's equivalent would be $43,353.
So if he's in a rent control,
1990. I said early 90s. So that I don't remember when that was.
That would have been like 91, I think.
Yeah, the equivalent of $43,000.
Yeah. That right there pays for his rent for a long time. Right. So now we're kind of getting a little bit more. It's like I think he has the one thing that pays off every once in a while.
The gambling.
Yeah. Well, this one's gambling. And that leads to his gambling that they mentioned later.
Right, which is it comes up a lot in the show. And I saw just the other day, the episode where he's betting with I forgot his name, Earl, the cowboy hat guy.
Earl Heffler.
He's betting on the incoming
on flights.
Yeah. And he loses, but he doesn't have that much cash. Do you remember? And he calls Newman, and Newman brings the serial killer's mailbag. So then my thought was, well, did that mean he didn't have that much money, or he didn't have that much cash? Right, like
he calls him saying, well, the guy Earl wants some money on the table because Kramer's getting deep in the hole.
Right, and he's jammed up.
He's like, I need some collateral. So Kramer doesn't have that much cash on him. He calls Newman. I don't have that much cash. He says, sure you do.
Right.
No, not the bag.
Right. If it was this is what I love about this show. It was in the 90s. There's no online banking. There's no after hours, nothing. If you needed $3,000 cash, I guess you go to the ATM.
You need your buddy Newman.
but do we even know if Kramer had a debit card? We don't know these things. I knew one person in life, and I won't name his name, but I knew a guy that didn't have any bank accounts, and he was a cash guy, and so he would have had trouble. I mean, I guess he had to go to your house physically to get cash, but I'm thinking if Kramer got jammed up over $3,000 with Mr. What was his name?
Heffler? I don't know.
I forgot his name. But if it was like a Saturday or after hours, he would not have had access to cash if he didn't have a bank account.
Yeah, no, exactly. So he might have actually had enough in his account, but just not had access to it. Earl Heffler, I think, is who it is.
Heffler. So Kramer, we know his gambling is an issue, and the assumption 99% of the time is if you had gambling issues is that you spent all your money. But is it possible that Kramer had squirreled away winnings but still had a gambling problem?
He also, I forget, it might have been that same episode earlier there in the coffee shop, and someone says, hey, you want to bet something? And Kramer starts going, how much you want to bet? $100, $200, $300. And Jerry has to calm him down, so he has a big emotional gambling addict sort of response to that.
George was going to ask people walking by if his boss looked like Sugar Ray Robinson.
Right.
Leonard
Sugar Ray Leonard.
And he said, I'll bet you 9 out of 10 people. And Kramer said, it's a lock, Jerry, it's a
lock. Yeah.
So
that's right. So that speaks to he has a real problem here. And if you have a real problem, I mean, I don't know that much about gambling addiction, but it's the sort of thing that can not only lose all your money, but all the money of the people around you.
Right.
Just leave a black hole.
I knew, and I won't name names, but I knew a person that had to go into care for gambling addiction.
Yeah, for sure.
And they
That's right.
They take away your phone. They won't let you. They let you. It's like a little prison on purpose, though. Like you call your loved one, once a week or something. But they extract you from all ability to gamble. And so Seinfeld makes it the comedic thing, but it's really actually a horrible, horrible thing. So
yeah.
Again, you don't admit you have a gambling problem and you get rich gambling. Like if you get rich gambling, then you don't have a problem. You're good at it.
You're just amazing at gambling.
Yeah, and there's a lot of poker players and famous people that have gambled and gotten rich off of it. So it sounds like Kramer's gambling things have kind of been $18,000 on a horse, and then he doesn't have the money to pay Earl. So I could conceive that the gambling brings money in, but just as quickly as it bringing in, it was sending it out. But if you'll keep in mind, during all those episodes, he only had a handful of gambling incidents. Like, it wasn't a constant.
Yeah, we don't see all of them.
Yeah. So it was probably something pre-show, in his youth or whatever. But it's proven that he made money doing it. It's also proven that he
made
lost
money, but you're absolutely right. It stands to reason. There's probably a lot we don't know about that did not end up so well. And Jerry knows about it, because Jerry stops him.
Right.
Come on, he can't bet. He can't bet.
Yeah. Which is funny, because the show really hinges on them having no empathy. If you look at all the episodes, none of the characters hardly have any empathy except for themselves. So that was one I noticed that when I saw it last time, that Jerry said, "No, Kramer, you can't gamble." Like, he cared about Kramer.
Yeah.
So,
or even has to stop him because this will lead down a road that, let's assume he is completely self-centered. That could affect him too.
Right. So is there anything else?
Jerry subsidizes, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No,
go
ahead.
It should be mentioned, Jerry subsidizes a lot of Kramer's lifestyle too, just through food.
Food. Yeah, food alone. They have an agreement. You can eat my food, I can eat your food. And interestingly,
Jerry can go back and go to Kramer's apartment whenever he wants.
What you never see, at least I don't remember seeing, is Kramer's kitchen. Does Kramer have we ever seen Kramer's
kitchen? I don't
think
we ever see that.
We know that Kramer...
Yes. Oh, sorry. We see his bedroom. We see the hot tub.
The levels.
We see him on the couch with the reverse peephole. And we see a shower with the garbage disposal.
Yes. Do you remember when he was making sausage with Newman in Jerry's kitchen?
Yeah.
And
he also makes his tomato sauce in Jerry's kitchen when he's gone.
He makes breakfast when he's working at Brant Leland.
Oh, I forgot to bring that one up. That's one of his ventures that doesn't make any money.
What are they paying you down there? Or they don't pay me.
What do you do all day?
Taking care of business.
TCB.
TCB.
What's in the briefcase? Crackers.
And he ate crackers on Murphy Brown. He likes crackers. So he clearly uses Jerry's kitchen every time he needs to cook. So he's not really buying groceries. Anyway, I think it's one of these situations. Think about, let's talk about bills, right? You have water bill, electric bill, rent, maybe some kind of car insurance. So I would say...
I doubt it. I bet he could probably... He could probably just skip without car insurance. We could assume he might not have car insurance.
Well, it's funny because...
No health insurance, I would say, too.
Oh, no way. No. But I've known people like Kramer where you can't picture them doing administrative things. Like whatever. But he goes to the DMV to get the license plates, the famous license plates.
Yeah.
So he's doing these functional day-to-day things. But I can't picture him doing all the administrative things it takes to exist. But he does it.
I can't even envision him, like, writing a check and mailing it.
Right. But my point being is that Kramer, he lives as cheaply as a person can live. Think about it. Single, right? For the most part, single. No kids that you know of. Maybe living in a rent-controlled apartment. So his bills would be as low as you could conceivably have low bills in New York City. But like we said in the beginning, it ain't cheap to live there.
He may be on the lowest possible, way to live in Manhattan at the time.
So do you have any other jobs? Or you want to get to our conclusion? Because you said
I
you
have
had a
the one big
conclusion.
one. I have the last one big thing that made him money. Before I do that, are there any others that you can think of?
Well, I'm not thinking of them, but I would encourage, again, both of our listeners, we need to have a call-in. We need to get a live call-in. We're going to start doing this live.
I got one, actually. I've got one on the line right now.
Oh, okay.
I can't get it to plug into the thing. It's too bad. The phones are lit.
When this becomes they're lit. When this becomes the world's #1 Seinfeld fan page, we will have people for this. and we'll
That's right.
patch in callers.
And then
Right
we,
now?
in the future, will go back and roast this episode and make fun of ourselves.
But yes,
That's
how
what you're
bad it
supposed to
is.
do. Okay,
by the
so
way,
I've got the one
before-
big one.
Wait,
Okay.
before you get to that, we want to point out to everybody, our ultimate goal for this podcast is to get a cease and desist letter from Jerry Seinfeld himself.
Yeah, I mean, it may have to be just whoever owns. It may not be like with his signature on it. I mean, that is
maybe some hate mail from Jerry. Like, please stop
anything.
doing this.
We would
podcast.
take it. I'd be
I would
flattered.
frame it and tape it up. I'd tape it up there behind where Kramer fell.
That's right.
Okay, quickly, the one
I
big
remember
thing-
back in the like maybe late 90s, early 2000s, there was a Seinfeld.com, and I won a prize on it for submitting a trivia question.
Really?
And I framed it. Yeah. It was like a monthly. They're like, oh, we give our month, or maybe it was even a weekly. It could not have been less significant. But anyway.
We both have kind of blank walls, so we need to start getting some stuff from people to hang up
You
there.
noticed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I want to get something signed by Seinfeld. One on my wall. Okay, go ahead.
That's the goal. Maybe we'll
goal.
achieve it, maybe we won't, but we shoot for the stars here.
We will try. All right, let's hear it. The one big thing. What you got?
All right. The coffee table book about coffee tables.
Yes. The big kahuna. Which go ahead. What
He
you got?
has the idea first. This idea, a coffee table book about coffee tables. And it's all about celebrities, coffee tables, I think, is what he wants to do. This gets published. Pendant Publishing.
A real publisher.
Mr. Lipman gets mad at Elaine for not bringing this idea to him sooner, I think. See, these are the ideas you should be bringing to... and then what I think is the big boost is that he goes on Regis and Kathy Lee as a national TV appearance where he ends up first kissing Kathy right on the lips for several seconds.
Right, awkwardly.
And then, the interview goes on for a while, and then he drinks something and spits it all over. So it ends badly, but he is on national TV promoting a published book. And this book would fall under like a novelty coffee table book. So, let's say those go for $20. I'm throwing out a random number.
Right.
And let's say he makes 3 off of it. I don't even know if that's reasonable at all. But I'm trying to go on the low end. So if he sells, how many do you think he would sell just from being on national TV and promoting it? 100,000 copies, maybe?
Yeah, I was going to say 100,000. I mean, you don't know. Yeah, 100,000. On the on the low end, 50,000 at $3.
Let's say the
a
low
piece.
end, and he gets $3. That's 150,000.
Yeah. Okay, let's go back to our inflation calculator. How much is
This was this would have been later this would have been almost mid 90s, I think.
let's say 95. Today would be worth $307,360.
So
That's
there's
on the
all of
low
his
end.
rent.
Yeah. And if you'll recall, there's one little wrinkle when he comes in and says, "Boys, I'm retiring." He optioned. Do you remember this? He optioned the coffee table to be for a movie script. And George said, "How do you make a movie about that?" And he referenced Independence Day.
Independence Day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
By the way, I was never clear if it was actually optioned, but I thought he was in talks for it being optioned.
Okay.
Hey, either way.
So a couple things about that. If you publish a book by a major publisher, you get an advance, right? An advance is not just free money. It goes against your. This is the way I understand it. It goes against your future sales, so you have to kind of make that money back for the publishing company.
Right.
And that's how music works, a record label, So if you don't sell a lot of books, you kind of get tangled up in it. But I'm assuming he got an advance. And then when he went on a national television show, he probably sold a bunch of copies. And then it got optioned. And options don't last forever, to my understanding. Like sometimes you have to renew options. Like you'll buy the rights to it for like 5 years. And then if you don't make a movie, then the options revert back to the publisher or whatever.
Right.
So a lot of money moving around this book. A lot of money. So it seems like, and this is the conclusion I'm going to reach, is that if Kramer kind of bumbled along with his gambling and his part-time jobs and all his failed entrepreneurship, and then finally with his lottery ticket of a coffee table book, he comes into real money.
Yeah.
Is that kind of what we're
Well,
getting at?
That's we don't know. That's kind of, we know he gets a lot of money from that book. I think we can safely assume.
Yeah.
Now, who knows if he manages it well? If he seeks out a financial advisor and pursues a wise
gambling.
stratagem.
Yeah.
This also occurs right in the middle of the series, but he does. I think you said something about this earlier. He never worries about money. He's very carefree,
No.
and he's very comfortable in a way that you would think that he doesn't worry about it, that he has enough that he doesn't have to worry about. In fact, he kind of, at some points, it's my favorite thing when they all are condescending towards Jerry and his comedy. His parents are trying to get him into the Bloomingdale's executive training program.
Yes.
And Kramer's there listening. And he's like, listen, you gave this comedy thing your best shot, but it's over. You know, you had some good observations, but... or you had some good observations, but it's over. You know, this Bloomingdale executives thing, like, that could be the real ticket. So he's just, you know, he's trying to give advice, like, maybe you can be like me.
Yeah.
So he seems like he just kind of has a lot of money.
This is kind of like the final thought on this, and I think we'll wrap this up. But if you're around people that are truly wealthy or don't worry about money, the one thing they don't talk about is money. I don't know if you've ever been around these people. They don't bring it up. They don't talk about it. They don't reference it, or how much I got to pay for this, and this is coming up, and I got to fix that. You know, people with money, the really wealthy people, especially the eccentric wealthy people, they don't talk about money.
Yeah.
And I just thought of one thing. Kramer, remember when Jerry was using a wallet, and Newman said, "Wallet."
Wallet.
And Kramer said, "You put the big bills on the outside."
The big bills on the outside.
And Jerry says,
"That's a 5.
That's a 5. So Kramer is like existing in this really contradictory world still, where maybe he does have a lot of money, he doesn't worry about money.
It's a big bill to him.
A 5 a big bill.
I'll even go further. We see, through the course of one season, about 8 to 8.5 hours of his life.
Right.
Compared to 8,760 hours that are in a year. This is 0.01% of his life.
Well, you did the math.
So if he's doing all of this, he may very well have way more money than anyone else on the show. He may be the richest, most wealthiest cast member by far.
We see the documented.
That's right.
Things. Yeah,
that's right. Which means there's so much more undocumented stuff that we're not even privy to. Sadly,
you know, doesn't it make you strive to?
It was back in the day when you couldn't just have a camera running all the time.
Right.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Well, maybe one thing we could say about AI, maybe one day they'll be able to go backwards and create these things after the fact. You know, like a Kramer reality show, like 30 years from now, using AI Kramer.
Yeah, we can only hope.
We can only hope.
Yeah.
All right, my friend. Anything else you want to add to this?
That's about I had.
Very interesting subject. So
yeah,
all right,
thank you. That was good. If I feel better now.
Yeah, you got it out of your system. Well, here's the thing. Any good subject about Seinfeld will make you think more about it after we're done talking. So we can certainly revisit Kramer in the future. And I got to.
So stay tuned for our next podcast, which the topic will again be Kramer's income. The exact same one.
Actually,
just keep going.
The whole podcast for the rest of eternity will just be about Kramer's income.
Let's call it Kramer's income.
Okay, I like it.
We'd figure it out. All right.
And then one day we'll have Kramer, on the podcast. Yeah, your podcast.
Yeah, podcast.
All right, y'all. Thanks for tuning in, Jonathan. It's been a pleasure. We will delve into more Seinfeldisms in our next episode. Please make sure you find us where all podcasts are available, and subscribe. And we will see y'all next time.
Adios.